This program was brought to you by Koller Institute of Venture at Tel Aviv University.
We had a very diverse team. I am the representative of the academia. We had Yuval, who's an economist from BGU, Eli Streit, PFM Consulting, a lot of experience in the private market, Benny Sofer from the Technion TTO, and Zev Holzman, who's a VC in Giza. And this actually made our discussion very, very diverse. And I think I'll focus on the end point which we kind of aggregated our ideas to, and this is the entrepreneurial university. And the first thing is that we asked ourselves is why? Why should we bother with an entrepreneurial university? And we identified some very basic incentives and motivations to do that. First of all, funding. There's not enough research funds to go around in Israel, and we need to generate alternative sources of money flowing into research, and this is one of the avenues that is very appropriate. Another important point was already raised by Yael earlier, is that there's a big conflict of interest between me as an academic mentor who wants many, many talented people to come and spend many years in my lab doing their PhD on research. And then there's nothing that they could do with the time that they spend in my lab. And in the real world, it would be better to them to finish with a second degree and get 4 years of industrial experience. And at the same time point when their colleague finished their PhD, they are much more advanced in the real world. So another incentive of an entrepreneurial university would be to actually create avenues of jobs, startups, and other social infrastructure for all these talented people that come out of our universities without compromising research. And of course, there is the attractiveness of a university that also has its leg in entrepreneurship and the industry, which today is very attractive to both students and faculty members when they have to choose their place. So the question is how to do that, and we've identified several layers of action that have to be performed. And the first comes from the education. From very early, at least on the university level, early education, adaptation of the syllabus towards more entrepreneurship. And one of the ideas that came along is that maybe we should build dedicated tracks for students who are interested in being involved later in the industry. So, and this is in general for every discipline. There is no reason that someone that wants to have a PhD in biology will not also have a minor in entrepreneurship and will learn some courses in the business school and will have a mentor from the industry, which would be a co-advisor, etc., etc. A lot of mechanisms that could be implemented in order to really foster all of these young talents without compromising their research in the university, but still giving them some kind of competitive edge when they finish their PhD in the real world. And in this respect, this also includes, although there was some controversy if we should have, for example, our own seed infrastructure for startups within the university, or this should be just external, but these are things that are open for debate, and I think definitely we need to do more in this entrepreneurship-oriented education. Okay, we mentioned joint events with the university and industry, just making a culture of industrial entrepreneurship within the university, and of course leaving the choice to every faculty member to his likings. If he wants to do basic research, this is exactly the environment that we foster here, but if someone wants to do applied research or take a fraction of his research toward applied research, this is definitely legitimate, and the university is a good place to do that. One of the obstacles that we identified for this kind of cooperation are the tech transfer offices. And for me, it was actually the first time to really try to understand why, when people come to my office, usually entrepreneurs that want to do something industrial with some of the things that I research, the minute they hear that TTO is involved, they want to leave. And so we were lucky to have also a VC with us, Zev, and in principle, it seems that the major problem is transparency. VCs never know what they have coming when they come to a TTO office in order to negotiate some kind of interaction. So I think one of the important things that should be done is to have a much more open, much more transparent, much more flexible mechanism for taking academic ideas and IP into the next step. And this is something we talked about. Of course, another component of the work of the TTO is situated between the researchers and the industry, and therefore one side is to be attractive for the industry, but the other side is also to be attractive for the researchers, because there are a lot of researchers that have hard times working with the TTO offices, and this is another aspect that really has to be improved, and a lot of thought has to be invested into how to make TTO offices more streamlined and a better mediator between academia and industry. Another important thing that we've talked about is the issue of incentives. So if we decide that the interest of the university is to boost entrepreneurship, there has to be good incentives for both faculty members and students that are interested in entrepreneurship to do this. And we haven't talked about specific incentives, but for example, as a faculty member, I am not judged or promoted almost at all for my applied and entrepreneurship-oriented activities. And this is maybe something that can change and should change. Similarly, PhD students, they are ranked for their papers, they are ranked for their academic grades in courses, but it might be smart to also add components of evaluating people in the academia and students and faculty alike also for industry-oriented activities. And I think in the context of mentorship, so we've mentioned that there should be some of these special programs for PhD students that are more towards industry, and here mentorship is very, very important. And I mean, the best source for every academic institute for mentors are alumni from this institute that have made it. And in this aspect, I think this is true for all Israeli universities where we're doing very, very poorly. There are no good mechanisms for keeping in touch and kind of flaming up this loyalty of alumni towards their institute and their fellow graduates, as we see, for example, in the United States. And this is another thing that we think should be addressed. And finally, what Ifat told me as we were sitting here, so everything we're doing here, Yesha, is for you to write another one of these. This will not take us forward, okay? If we want to end this as an academic exercise, it has to go beyond the booklet. There has to be follow-up, there has to be pragmatism, things have to happen. Thank you.
This program was brought to you by Koller Institute of Venture at Tel Aviv University.